Captain Elias Ward sat alone inside the broken shell of his ship. Smoke rose from the cracked panels and sparks danced across the floor. The air smelled of burnt metal. His last working screen flickered, showing only red warnings. Engines offline. Navigation offline. Distress signal weak. He leaned back against the chair, closed his eyes, and let out a long breath. The mission was already a failure. His crew had evacuated earlier when pirates attacked, but his escape pod had been thrown off course. Now he was stranded on an unknown world at the edge of alien space. The planet was silent when he first stepped outside. Green skies stretched above, and strange rock towers stood like watchful giants. The air was thin but breathable. The only sound was the soft hum of wind brushing against glowing plants. Elias carried little with him: a half-empty pack of supplies, a small water purifier, and his survival knife. He knew he had to move. Staying near the broken ship meant death. The radio would not reach any human colonies from here. He had to survive on his own. For 3 days, Elias searched for food and shelter. He learned to crush the glowing fruits from tall trees and boil them with filtered water. He built a small fire near a cave entrance and sharpened branches into spears. Survival was hard, but not impossible. On the 4th day, he heard something new. A cry. It was faint, carried by the wind. It did not sound like an animal. It sounded like a child. Elias froze, listening. The cry came again, broken and desperate. Without thinking, he grabbed his pack and followed the sound. His boots sank into soft earth as he moved quickly through the glowing forest. Then he saw it. A deep canyon split the ground ahead. At the bottom lay a small figure trapped under fallen rocks. The child's silver skin reflected the strange green light. Her large violet eyes filled with tears. Elias climbed down carefully, sliding against loose stones. "Hey, don't move, I'm coming," he said, though he knew she could not understand his words. His voice was calm, steady, the kind used by doctors, teachers, and parents. The girl whimpered, but when she saw him approach, her eyes widened with a mix of fear and hope. A heavy rock pinned her leg. Elias braced his hands against it, pushed, and shouted with effort. The stone rolled away, and the girl gasped as her body was freed. Her small chest rose and fell quickly. Her leg was bleeding, dark blue liquid dripping from the wound. Elias tore a strip from his sleeve and tied it tightly around the injury. Then he lifted her into his arms. She was light, fragile, shaking, easy. "I've got you now," he whispered. The girl clung to him weakly, her small fingers digging into his jacket. Her lips moved, speaking in a language he did not know. One word repeated again and again: "Vetra, Vetra." Elias carried her back to his cave, moving as fast as he could. Once inside, he laid her gently on his blanket and used his purifier to clean the wound. He crushed the glowing fruit into a paste and pressed it against the cut, hoping it would help. The girl cried softly at first, but soon calmed. Her wide violet eyes never left Elias's face. When he offered her water, she drank slowly, still watching him. Night fell. The firelight painted the cave walls gold. The child finally whispered a new word, looking straight at him. "Fa." There, Elias blinked. "What did you say?" She repeated, slower this time, her voice trembling but clear. "Father." Elias felt a weight in his chest. He had saved her life, yes, but she was not human. Why would she call him that? He shook his head, unsure if it was a mistake in translation or if the word had another meaning in her tongue. Still, she reached for his hand and held it tightly. The warmth of her small fingers pressed against his skin. That night, Elias could not sleep. He stared at the glowing ceiling of the cave and thought about the girl. She was alone, lost, injured. Somewhere out there, someone must be searching for her. Maybe her family, maybe an entire people. But for now, she had only him. The next morning, Elias woke to find her sitting up, weak but awake. She pointed at him, then at herself, and whispered again, "Father." "Lysera," Elias understood. She was giving him her name. "Lysera. Lysera," he repeated softly. Her face brightened at hearing her name in his voice. She smiled for the first time. Days passed. Elias taught her simple things: how to eat the glowing fruit safely, how to filter water, how to keep the fire alive. She healed slowly, limping less each day. Though they spoke different languages, they built a small bridge through gestures and expressions. Sometimes she would laugh at his clumsy mistakes when trying to mimic her alien words. Sometimes she would sit close, listening to the strange sound of his human songs hummed by the fire. But every night, Before she closed her eyes, she whispered the same word. Father. Elias never corrected her. He told himself it was just confusion, a child's way of clinging to the one who had saved her. Yet deep inside, he felt a strange responsibility, a bond stronger than chance. One evening, while gathering wood near the canyon, Elias noticed strange marks on the rocks. They were deep, sharp, not made by nature. Tracks. Something else had passed here. His heart tightened. Whoever or whatever had caused Lysera's accident might still be close. And if they returned, they would find not just a lost alien child, but her calling a human father. Elias stared at the horizon where dark clouds began to gather. He tightened his grip on the wooden spear he carried. Something told him his time on this world would not stay quiet for long. Behind him, Lysera called softly, her voice echoing through the green air. Father? Elias turned back, gave her a small smile, and nodded. I'm here. And though he never planned it, though he never asked for it, he realized something true in that moment. To her, he was no longer just a stranger. To her, he was home. The morning sun cast a soft green glow over the canyon where Elias and Lysera stayed. Birds with translucent wings darted through the air, their songs strange but gentle. Elias watched her carefully as she explored the rocks near the cave. She had grown stronger since the day he rescued her. Her limp was almost gone, and her curiosity now led her to climb small cliffs and investigate the glowing plants. Elias called out, Careful, Lysera. Don't go too far. She stopped, looked back, and smiled, her violet eyes shining. Then, as if testing him, she leapt onto a narrow ledge. Elias's heart jumped. Without thinking, he ran and caught her hand just in time. You're getting too brave, he scolded gently, though relief washed over him. Lysera giggled, a sound so pure it made Elias forget his troubles for a moment. But that happiness could not last forever. He knew she belonged somewhere with people who loved her. Somewhere there must be a family searching for her. That evening, a strange hum filled the air. Elias looked up. From the sky descended 3 alien ships, glinting silver and purple. They hovered silently, then landed gracefully on the canyon floor. Elias's heart sank. Whoever these visitors were, they had found Lysera. He stood protectively in front of her. The first figure to step out of the ship was tall and regal. Her skin shimmered like polished metal, and her eyes held a sharp intelligence that made Elias take a step back. She wore a crown-like headpiece, and her posture commanded respect. The other figures, guards or attendants, carried advanced-looking weapons but did not raise them. Lysera ran forward, calling out a name in her strange language. Mother. Elias froze. The words were loud and clear, full of love and relief. He felt a pang of sadness and fear. The tall woman's eyes widened as she saw Lysera clutching Elias's hand. Then her gaze shifted to Elias himself. Her breathing caught, and she stepped forward slowly. Human. Her voice was calm but trembling. Why does my daughter call you father? Elias's mind raced. He tried to explain, but words failed. I saved her, he said. She was hurt. I helped her. That's all. I am not her father. Lysera pressed closer to him, repeating softly, Father. The Queen's expression changed from shock to suspicion. The guards moved slightly as if expecting Elias to fight, but Elias stayed calm. He did not want violence. He had no weapons to match theirs. All he had was the trust of this small alien child, and he would not betray it. Explain, the Queen demanded. Elias tried again, gesturing to the cave and to Lysera. He mimed lifting a heavy rock, cleaning wounds, giving water, and keeping fire. Slowly, he showed her how he had saved the child's life. The Queen watched him, her eyes sharp but searching. She could sense truth in his actions, in his calm, steady heart. No trick, no deception. Just care. Lysera smiled at him and repeated her word again. Father. The Queen's lips pressed together. A silent moment passed, filled with tension. Then she turned to her attendants and whispered something. The guard stepped back, leaving space. Elias realized that Lysera's bond with him was more than a simple rescue. The child had chosen him, not just because he saved her, but because he was kind, brave, and patient. Something in his human spirit had drawn her to him. The Queen spoke again, this time softer. She was lost. She should not call anyone else. But there is a connection here, perhaps stronger than we understand. Elias swallowed hard. He did not fully understand either. He had never met a people like the Zerothians before. Their culture, their rules, and their power were far beyond his own experience, and yet somehow a simple act of kindness had changed everything. The queen looked at Lysera. "You have chosen this human. But understand, child, he is not of our blood. He is not our world. He cannot protect you as we can, and yet he is here." Lysera's small hand tightened around. The grand hall of the Zerothian palace was vast, unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Towers of silver stretched to the ceiling, adorned with floating crystals that glowed softly. The floor shimmered with a strange light, reflecting patterns like moving stars. Guards and advisors lined the edges, watching silently. Lysera stayed close to Elias, clutching his hand. She did not speak, but her violet eyes were bright with hope. Elias squeezed her hand gently. "Don't worry, Lysera. I'll be fine," he whispered. She nodded, though her small grip tightened, showing she understood the danger better than she let on. The queen appeared at the far end of the hall. She radiated authority and calm power, her presence making every guard bow slightly. "Human," she said, her voice echoing. "Your trials begin today. You will face 3 tests: strength, wisdom, and heart. Only if you pass all 3 can you remain near my daughter." Elias swallowed. He had no weapons, no armor, no knowledge of their ways, but he had his mind, his courage, and his human instincts. That would have to be enough. The first trial began immediately. The floor opened beneath him, and Elias fell onto a platform surrounded by a pit of glowing energy. Across the pit, enormous stone statues shifted and moved. Their arms swung with speed and precision. The queen's voice rang out, "Survive the guardians." Elias's heart pounded. He ducked under a swinging arm, rolled across the glowing floor, and leapt onto a safe spot. The guardians moved faster, sensing his hesitation, but he used observation and timing. His human reflexes, though weaker than the Zerothians, allowed him to survive their patterns. Lysera watched from above, holding her breath as he dodged, rolled, and finally reached the platform's edge. He had survived. Sweat poured down his face, but he felt a surge of pride. Even if small, a human could endure. The second trial tested wisdom. Elias entered a chamber filled with thousands of glowing orbs floating in midair. Each orb contained a different scene: stars, planets, rivers of light, and strange alien symbols. A voice echoed, "Find the path to your daughter's safety." One mistake and the trial ends. Elias looked at the orbs. Some showed danger, some showed peace, but he could not tell the difference at first. He remembered Lysera's trust, her reliance on him, and the moments they had shared in the canyon. Slowly he used his instincts to choose the orbs that symbolized care, protection, and guidance. One by one, the orbs glowed brighter, illuminating a path through the chamber. He followed it carefully, avoiding traps of confusion and false doors. His human mind, trained in observation and creativity, allowed him to see patterns others might miss. Finally, he stepped onto the last orb, and the chamber opened into a bright corridor. He had passed the second trial. Lysera clapped softly from the viewing balcony above. She whispered, "Father, you're brave." The final trial was the hardest. Elias entered a room where illusions surrounded him. Shadows of Lysera cried out for help, and he heard her calling in distress from multiple directions. Some illusions were real, some fake, he could not tell. The voice of the queen filled the chamber. "Only the one who acts with heart can succeed. Only he who protects without thought for himself can pass." Elias felt fear, doubt, and confusion. Each step he took, each decision he made could be wrong. He heard a cry from the corner. Lysera's voice, real or illusion, called to him. His heart told him to act, to save her no matter the danger. He ran, ignoring the shadows, following the sound of her true voice. The illusions tried to mislead him, but his focus never wavered. He reached her, pulled her into his arms, and held her tight. The shadows dissolved, the illusions faded, and a soft light surrounded them. The queen appeared beside him. "Human, you have passed." Her voice held a mixture of respect and surprise. "Your heart is strong. Your mind is clever. Your courage, unusual for your kind." Elias looked down at Lysera, who smiled up at him, her trust unwavering. He had survived the guardians, solved the chamber of orbs, and chosen the path of the heart. Against impossible odds, he had proven himself, not with weapons, but with the qualities humans often overlooked: empathy, persistence, and love. The court murmured among themselves. Whispers spread like fire. A human, a small, fragile being, had survived the trials of the Zerothians. They looked at him differently now. Not as weak or insignificant, but as someone worthy of respect. The Queen continued, her eyes on Elias. Your trials are complete. You may remain near my daughter, though there are still many who will watch you with suspicion. They will test your loyalty, your strength, and your intentions. Elias nodded. He understood that passing the trials was not the end. It was the beginning of a new challenge. He would have to prove himself every day, not just to the Queen, but to her court and to an entire people who had never trusted humans before. Lysera stepped closer to him, her small hand resting on his arm. "Father," she said softly. "I knew you could do it." Elias smiled down at her. Her words, so simple and honest, carried more weight than any title or honor. In that moment he realized something important. Being a father or a guardian was not about power or strength or approval. It was about presence, protection, and care. The Queen studied them, her expression unreadable. After a long pause, she spoke again. "You have won my respect, human. But understand this, the galaxy is not calm. Threats wait beyond these walls, enemies who would use my daughter for their own ends. You will face more than trials here. You will face the real danger soon." Elias's jaw tightened. He had expected this. The galaxy was vast and hostile. The fact that he had survived this far did not mean safety. But he would not be afraid. Not with Lysera depending on him. The Queen waved her hand and the court dispersed. Guards escorted them to a chamber where Lysera could rest safely. Elias sat beside her, watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, innocent, and completely trusting of him. He whispered softly, "I will not let anything happen to you, Lysera. Not now, not ever." Outside the palace, the stars shone brightly in the alien sky. Ships moved silently across the horizon, carrying messages, traders, and perhaps spies. Elias knew that passing the trials had only drawn attention. The galaxy was watching the human who had earned the trust of a Zerothian princess. But inside the palace, in that quiet room, Elias felt a rare moment of peace. He had faced impossible challenges, survived trials meant to break even the strongest warriors, and had won the heart of a child. That was more than any human could ask for. Lysera stirred, opening her violet eyes. She looked at him and smiled. "Father?" Elias nodded, taking her small hand in his. "Always," he said, and in that simple word a promise was made. A promise that no matter what trials awaited them beyond the walls of the palace, Elias would face them. For her, he would endure anything, because some bonds were stronger than blood, stronger than fear, stronger than the stars themselves. The Zerothian palace had never seemed so quiet. The halls shimmered with floating lights and the gentle hum of the crystalline walls filled the space. Yet beneath the calm surface, tension rippled. Elias could feel it even without understanding all the court politics. Something was coming. He stood near the balcony with Lysera, watching the sun, or what passed for sunlight here, glow green over the horizon. Lysera had grown stronger and more curious since the trials. She climbed onto the railing, her violet eyes scanning the palace grounds. "Father," she said softly, "will we stay here forever?" Elias shook his head. "No, Lysera. This is only a safe place for now, but we must be ready for what comes next." Lysera nodded, though her small hand tightened around his. She already understood that their peace was fragile. The warning came the next day. Scouts reported ships approaching from the outer sector. They were fast, sleek, and heavily armed. Elias watched from the observation deck as the fleet grew closer. His stomach tightened. He had survived the trials, but this was different. This was real danger. The Queen called a council meeting. The chamber filled with Zerothian advisors, generals, and elite guards. Elias stood at the back, Lysera at his side. The Queen's voice rang out, calm but firm. "They are the Vorith, rebels seeking to destabilize our rule. They know about Lysera and her bond with a human. If they reach the palace, they will take her." Elias clenched his fists. He had no army, no alien weapons, but he could not let harm come to her. "What can I do?" he asked quietly. The Queen looked at him. "Your human instincts, your courage, and your connection to Lysera may save us all. You must be ready." That evening, Elias walked the palace grounds. He examined corridors, hidden passages, and observation points. He studied the guards, learning their patrols and patterns. Humans were small, but sometimes smallness allowed stealth and creativity. He made plans considering every possibility. Night fell. The palace was quiet, almost too quiet. Suddenly alarms echoed through the halls. Red lights flashed. The Vorath had arrived. Ships landed on the outer platforms and their troops stormed toward the palace gates. Elias grabbed a small energy baton left from a Zerothian training room. It was weak compared to their advanced weapons, but it could stun. He moved quickly through the palace, guiding Lysera to a safe hidden chamber. She protested at first, but he whispered, "Trust me, Lysera. Stay here, stay quiet. I will find a way to protect you." She nodded, tears in her violet eyes. "Father, don't be hurt," Elias forced a smile. "I'll be fine." The corridors erupted with chaos. For soldiers, CL. The days after the Vorath attack passed in tense quiet. The palace buzzed with repairs and preparations, while the queen and her advisors studied the intelligence reports. Elias spent each day at Lysera's side, teaching her simple strategies for safety and survival, though he knew this was just preparation for what was to come. One evening, as the two walked through the palace gardens, Lysera paused to examine a glowing flower. "Father," she said softly, "will they come back?" Elias sighed. "Maybe, Lysera. The Vorath are clever. They will not forget a defeat. But we have advantages too. Knowledge, preparation, and each other." Her violet eyes studied him wide with trust. "We will be okay?" Elias smiled gently. "We will. I promise." But deep in the outer sector, the Vorath fleet was already regrouping. The Vorath commander, a tall, menacing figure named Kale, was furious over the loss. He could not understand how a fragile human had turned the battle. He growled as his officers reported. "They used clever traps, infiltrated our lines, and confused our forces. The human survived." Kale slammed his clawed hand on the console. "No, this is impossible." "That human will pay. We will strike where they least expect it and capture the princess. Then the Zerothians will fall." Elias learned of their renewed plans through scouts. The Vorath intended a full-scale attack, not just a raid. Entire fleets moved through hyperspace toward the palace, aiming to overwhelm the defenders. The queen convened her council again. "We must act quickly," she said. "The Vorath are bold and ruthless, but there is one advantage we have that they cannot predict." She turned to Elias. "Human, your ideas have saved us before. We will need them again. Will you lead a small strike team to intercept their command ship?" Elias swallowed. A direct assault on the enemy fleet was dangerous, far beyond anything he had faced. But he could not hesitate. Lysera's safety and the safety of the Queen's people depended on action. "I will do it," he said, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The Queen provided him with a small group of elite Zerothian warriors, trained in stealth and strategy. Elias studied their weapons and learned the basics of their energy shields. Though humans were weaker in physical strength, his ingenuity, creativity, and tactical thinking gave him an edge. Before departure, Lysera hugged him tightly. "Father, be careful. I don't want anything to happen to you." Elias kissed her forehead gently. "I will be careful, and I will return to you." They boarded a small strike craft designed for speed and stealth. The ship glided silently through the green sky, leaving the palace behind. Elias watched the horizon, the stars stretching endlessly above, carrying him toward danger he had never imagined. The Vorath command ship loomed ahead, massive and dark. Its shields glowed red, pulsing with energy. The small Zerothian craft would not survive a direct attack. Elias devised a plan. He studied the enemy's patterns, noting the rotation of shield generators and patrol routes. "Follow my lead," he instructed the Zerothian warriors. "We strike when the shields cycle. Precision, speed, and surprise. We can do this." The team moved in silence, heartbeats in rhythm with the ship's hum. When the moment came, Elias activated a small device he had improvised from the ship's tools. It emitted a pulse that disrupted the shield generators for a brief moment, just enough to slip through the outer perimeter. The Vorath guards reacted instantly, but the sudden intrusion caused confusion. The Zerothian warriors moved with precision, neutralizing key positions and creating a path to the command center. Inside the command ship, Kyle was alerted to the breach. He roared in frustration. "A human here? Impossible." Elias led his team down the narrow corridors, avoiding patrols and traps. His human instincts guided him: small, fast movements, careful observation, and creativity in using the environment. They reached the central control chamber. Kale waited, armored and ready. "You will fail," he hissed, glaring at Elias. Elias held his ground, unarmed but unafraid. Not today, he said. The battle was tense. The Zerothian warriors engaged the guards, but Kale focused on Elias. Strength alone would not win. Elias had no chance in a fair fight. Instead, he used strategy. He manipulated the control panels, causing a brief power surge that disabled Kale's armor. Sparks flew as Kale stumbled, surprised by the human's cleverness. Seizing the moment, Elias disarmed him, forcing Kale to retreat. The command ship's crew, seeing their leader compromised, surrendered. Elias had achieved what seemed impossible. A human had led an assault that captured the Vorath command ship and ended the threat before it reached the palace. The return to the palace was triumphant. Guards and citizens alike cheered for Elias. Lysera ran into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. "Father, you came back." Elias hugged her tightly. "I promised," he said. "I told you I would return." The queen approached, her eyes reflecting respect and a hint of awe. "Human, you have done what no one expected. Not just surviving the trials, but facing the enemy directly and protecting my daughter and my people. You are extraordinary." Elias shook his head. "I only did what I had to do." Lysera's trust. It gave me the strength to keep going. The queen studied the pair, father and daughter, human and Zerothian. "Perhaps humans are not merely small or weak. Perhaps your kind carries a strength of spirit we have underestimated. Your bond with Lysera, it is powerful and rare." Elias looked at Lysera, who smiled up at him with full trust. That smile, that belief, gave him more purpose than any honor or title could. That night, Elias sat with Lysera in the palace garden. The stars reflected in the glowing pools of water. She rested her head on his shoulder. "Father," she whispered, "you are my hero." Elias hugged her, feeling the truth in her words. "No, Lysera, you are my hero too. You gave me a reason to fight, to think, and to be brave." Outside, the galaxy moved on, unaware of the human who had become a guardian for a princess of a powerful alien race. But within the walls of the palace, a bond had been forged stronger than fear, stronger than war, stronger than any star. Elias knew the future would hold more battles, more dangers, and more challenges. But he also knew this. With Lysera by his side and the trust she placed in him, there was nothing he could not face. The rising storm had tested him, but he had passed, not through power but through heart, courage, and the simple choice to protect another, and that choice, he realized, was the greatest strength of all. The palace was quiet, but the air carried the tension of a world on alert. Weeks had passed since Elias's daring strike against the Vorath. Repairs had been made, celebrations held, yet the Queen's court remained watchful. The galaxy was never calm, and threats could rise again at any moment. Elias walked through the palace gardens with Lysera. The glowing flowers illuminated their path in soft green light. She ran ahead, exploring, yet constantly looked back to make sure he followed. Her violet eyes sparkled with curiosity and mischief, and Elias felt a warmth in his chest that humans rarely experienced outside family bonds. "Father," she asked, stopping near a crystal pond, "do you think there are more dangers waiting for us?" Elias crouched beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Probably, but we face them together. You've seen that courage and heart can do more than strength or weapons." She smiled. "I'm glad you're my father." The words were simple, but they carried weight that echoed through Elias's soul. He had never imagined being called father by a being from another world, yet the title felt right. He squeezed her hand gently. "And I'm glad to be your father, Lysera." Suddenly, alarms echoed through the palace. Elias's instincts immediately went on alert. This was no test. The Vorath or some other enemy were back. He grabbed a small energy baton and motioned for Lysera to stay close. The Queen appeared at the balcony above, her presence commanding yet calm. "It seems the galaxy tests us still," she said. "Human, your courage may be needed once more." Elias nodded. He had faced the trials, the palace invasion, and the strike against the Vorath. He knew that protecting Lysera was no longer just about survival. It was about being a symbol of hope for her people. Outside, a fleet of unknown ships approached. They were different from the Vorath, sleek, black, with engines humming like living beasts. The palace guards readied themselves while the Queen convened her council. "This is unexpected," she murmured. "They are not Vorath, yet their intent is clear. They come for the princess. Elias's heart tightened. He looked at Lysera, who clung to his side. He could see no fear in her eyes, only trust. That trust was a weapon far stronger than any laser or shield. The palace erupted into preparation. Elias worked alongside the Zerothian engineers, scouts, and warriors. He suggested strategies, routes, and traps that leveraged human ingenuity, something the Zerothians respected but rarely relied upon. His ideas were simple, sometimes unorthodox, but they exploited weaknesses the alien fleet did not anticipate. As night fell, the enemy ships descended. Lasers streaked across the green sky and energy shields flared in response. Elias coordinated defenders, using his human quick thinking to adjust tactics in real time. Every decision, every small move had consequences. In the chaos, Lysera watched from the palace windows. Though frightened, she did not panic. She whispered almost to herself, "Father, be safe." Elias heard her and felt determination surge through him. This was no longer a mission of survival. It was a